It's hard to watch those highlights and not get excited about the Chiefs' first-round pick. Welcome to day 2 of the 2020 NFL Draft, virtual style. I'm BJ Kissel. That is Matt McMullen, and we've got a great show for you over the next hour or so. Matt, last night was exciting. How are you feeling now that you've had some time to kind of let it settle a little bit?
BJ, I feel good. I haven't slept much, but we're celebrating a good day yesterday with our Hawaiian shirts, our Chiefs Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah, I think it was a note. I saw that good friend Peter Schrager had put out that it's not often the Super Bowl champs win the first night of the draft. The Chiefs got one of the most dynamic playmakers and maybe his favorite in the entire draft class in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So obviously if Peter Schrager is going to put it out there, I know he's got this shirt. So we're going to go back to the shirts that remind us of Super Bowl LIV. But Matt, like I said, we've got a great show over the next hour. We're going to break down the Clyde Edwards-Helaire pick and what it means, and we had a chance to talk with him. But we've also got some special guests to help us break down that pick as well as what's going on tonight. We will be joined soon by the Chiefs' all-time leading tackler and one of our favorites, Derek Johnson. Also be joined by the Royals all-star Wit Merrifield will join us, linebacker Anthony Hitchens, and then you guys didn't think that we would draft an LSU player and not bring in the Honey Badger to talk to us about it. I know he's excited. Yeah, we didn't have to twist his arm a whole lot to get him to come on the show to talk about that. So excited to see what he's got going on. But Matt, I know that Mitch and I had a chance last night to talk to Brett Veach on this live stream show, which we'll do again later tonight. Around pick 87, I think, is where we're going to be coming on. But tonight, or last night, you had a chance on the conference calls to talk with both Brett Veach and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Just what stood out to you?
Yeah, well, speaking with Brett Veach, the question really for him from some of the media was, why Clyde and why not Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, one of the other running backs there early on the board? And the answer was simple for him. These running backs have, one or two really good traits when you're looking at evaluating them. For Veach and the coaching staff, Clyde had all of those traits. He's the full package there on the Chiefs offense. He's going to fit and thrive perfectly with this group, catching the ball out of the backfield and also running it downhill. So really excited to see what this group can do offensively with him in the backfield. And I think Veach is too.
Like I said, we've got stats, we've got highlights, we've got breakdowns, we've got all kinds of cool stuff to break down that pick. But we'll get to that in a minute. But first, Matt, I want to go back and take a look at the moment from last night that Clyde Edwards-Helaire got that call and found out that he was going to be the newest member of the defending world champs.
Hi. There he is.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
What's going on?
Hey, why don't we let Clark go ahead and talk to him real quick?
Hey, Clyde, this is Clark Hunt. I just want to welcome you to the Kansas City Chiefs. I can't tell you how excited we are to have you. We can't wait to see you out there with Patrick Mahomes and the rest of all of our offensive talent. It's going to be something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can't wait. Thank you so much.
Hey, listen, we're fired up for you, man. Very excited.
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
Pat
Yes,
Mahomes,
sir. I can't
we
wait.
asked Pat Mahomes, who do you want? And he picked you. Huh? Great set.
Man, I'm ready to
You better
work.
be ready to go, man.
I'm ready to work, Coach. You know that.
You're always ready.
Clyde, I told Clark and Coach Reed today that at about 4 o'clock, I said Clyde was going to be our pick because Coach and I were thinking your way. And then when we texted Pat and I asked Pat, I said, give me a name. I said, don't think about it. He said, Clyde. I said, we're good. We're good. So we're excited, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank
What's
you so
going
much.
on, man? Coach EB, bro. How you doing?
What's up, Coach? How you doing?
I'm good, bro. I'm sure a few coaches down there at LSU been in your ear.
Yes, sir.
It's all good, man. Hey, we ready to go to work, bro. Okay?
Yes,
We're
sir. I'm ready.
We're going to continue doing what we do. All right? You come in and Coach Dillon going to get you straight. We're going to get you all lined up and ready to go. But when it's all said and done with, bro, we just going to come and continue doing what you did. All right?
That's it. That's it. Let's make it happen.
Hey, Clyde.
What's up, Coach?
Hey, man, I just wanted to say congratulations. And I told you a few days ago it was on, didn't I?
You did. You did.
I told you
did.
that.
You called.
I told you that, man. And so that was wishful thinking right there, man. But, hey, we're in a great spot right now, man. And just, man, I'm honored to coach you, and we're going to take this thing to the next level in the RB room.
Yes, sir. That's it. Let's make it happen, Coach.
Now, we're going to get to work here in a minute.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
Right.
Welcome to the team, Clyde. I think you a couple other LSU guys who may be excited to have you on the squad as well. You'll probably hear from them there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fired up to have you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, man.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all. I mean, I can't express how much I really appreciate it. I can't wait to work. And I mean, you guys got one of the hardest workers in the draft. So
That's right. We know that. Brett did a great job with his guys at doing his homework on you. So
Yes, sir.
He's the one who pulled the trigger there. And
Clyde, I look forward to meeting you when we get a chance to get you into Kansas City.
Yes, sir. Can't wait.
Matt, that was easily my favorite piece of content last night, getting a chance to see all the different access and all the different people that had a chance to catch up with Clyde Edwards-Helaire after that pick was made, particularly Eric Bieniemy. I think became a star after that. That is vintage Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the joy on Clyde's face. I mean, how cool is that? You wait the whole draft. You don't know if you're going to be a first-round pick or not. Maybe a second-round pick, wasn't sure. But to hear the Super Bowl champs call you and you're going to go to the Super Bowl champs and play with Patrick Mahomes, awesome for him. And you can see how happy he is. I love that video.
Yeah, I'd be remiss if I wouldn't point out that our producer, Anna Topkin, has let me know that there's a lot of chatter in the chat room about our Hawaiian shirts and where they come from. And they are, yes, Andy Reid approved, I believe, there, Tommy Bahama. And you can get them at the team store at Arrowhead Stadium. We got these going down to Miami. I think they sold out. I don't know if they have any back, but Sarah and everybody over at the team store will take care of you. You want to give them a call. I'm not sure what the schedule's like, but that's where we got these. But I also need to mention that this is coffee. Everybody, I guess that was another talking point. It's my Super Bowl championship mug, but that is coffee.
A long night. We're tired.
It was, but we got to get this in there before I forget. This live stream show is brought to you by Park University. And just in just a few weeks, our world has changed. Now changed the way you learn with online classes at Park University. Park has been teaching online for 25 years. Apply now for the summer term beginning June 8th. Park University, the official higher education partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a great program. We know people internally that work for the Chiefs that have done it, and I know friends that have gone through that program. So if you're looking at it and you're into that, it's a great one to do. But Matt, coming off that video with the call, the one thing that stands out to me about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and it kind of goes with some of the stuff that we heard from his coaches and some of the scouting reports and how he was spoke so highly of about down there. You just see the humility, the genuineness. It just seems like he's ready to work.
Yeah, ready to work. And when this guy works, he's productive. Let's go over some stats really fast here. Nearly first season as a starter in 14 games for the national champions, 1,500 rushing yards, 16 touchdowns, led the SEC, 6.68 yards per rush, third in the FBS, and 7 100 rushing yard games, including against Clemson in the national title game. This guy was unbelievable rushing the football. I mean, and his lateral quickness, it gets around guys, makes guys miss. Brett Veach mentioned he makes plays out of nothing, which is the perfect kind of guy for Andy Reid.
Yeah, I want to run this video here real quick that just shows his ability as a pass catcher out of the backfield, because I think that's what really separates him. And you heard Brett Veach talk about it. You mentioned it, over what he could do that maybe a couple of the other running backs who are going to be good in the league, that maybe they just don't offer all the same things that he does. And that each draft analyst said that the best pass-catching, route-running running back in this draft was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and he was the first one taken in this draft. But 55 catches, it was the second most in the FBS last year. But he forces your linebackers to cover in space. With this video, you see a lot of the stab routes, the shoot routes, the angle routes out of the backfield. It's making linebackers cover in that short area quickness, that lateral agility that you're talking about. And then also it forces your defensive backs, your cornerbacks, to want to come up and hit. You can't be lazy when you come up and hit, because one of the things about being 5'7" in that low center of gravity and a guy who gets low when he's about to hit contact is there's not a lot of surface area for a defensive back to come up and try to make a tackle. And you saw it all the time in breaking tackles, not only in the box, but outside with these DBs that are forced to try and tackle him.
Yeah, sure. And you think about those 55 catches you mentioned, those were the most in a single season by a running back in LSU school history. Think of the running backs to go through LSU. I mean, this guy has so many records that he set in a short time there as a starter on campus, and pretty impressive. And if you think about it, too, even before he was a starter, he was productive. In 2018, didn't start a single game, led LSU in all-purpose yards.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to Tyrann Mathieu in a little bit, because the other thing that jumps out, Matt, when you talk about a player that's coming to a defending Super Bowl champion roster and a team with high expectations, is that player has to get on that level. And how do you get that player on that level depending upon where they're coming from? Well, I think you couldn't draw it up any better to come from a national championship program where Clyde Edwards-Helaire is coming off playing his last season with the best quarterback in college football and having the best season in college football history. Well, now he's going to play for a quarterback that's had two of the best seasons for a quarterback, or the best start to a career. in NFL history for quarterback. And you look at the LSU offense with guys like Justin Jefferson on the outside, and you've got Jamar Chase, who's going to be a first-round draft pick next year, and all those weapons that they've got on the offensive side. That Clyde Edwards-Helaire, while being the team MVP and the team captain, and for all intents and purposes, based on what we've read coming out of there, one of the team leaders down there with all of those weapons, for him to be able to step into the Chiefs offense, knowing he doesn't have to be the guy, he just needs to be a guy. And
sure,
Andy Reid's ability to get those guys in space, like I said, I think you could see from Coach Reid last night that he was just a little jazzed to get this guy into that running back room.
Yeah, I think those gears are turning there. All the ways he's going to use this guy offensively. You know, Andy Reid isn't going to have his running back just be a guy he's going to hand the ball off to. It's going to be a guy who's going to be running routes, going to be getting the ball out of the backfield. And you think maybe thinking about Joe Burrow, who went first overall to the Bengals and was Clyde's quarterback at LSU. Of course, Burrow wanted to go first overall, but he has to go to a franchise that had the first overall pick, didn't have a good season. Clyde goes from the national champions to the Super Bowl champions. Pretty good deal for him.
Yeah, one of the things I want from the chat room right now, just let us know when you watch the highlights, because we've all watched highlights now of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Let us know the 3 words that come to mind when you watch him on film. And then let's do a little fantasy football action here, because it's going to be one of those popular guys that everybody talks about with his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. Give us some predictions. I know it's way early and stepped on the field, but give us some predictions on what kind of stats that you think he might be able to put up as a rookie. And then the one stat before we bring on our special guest right here, something that jumped out to me about Pro Football Focus. And I'm just going to read it right off their draft guide. They said, "We here at Pro Football Focus almost never give praise to a running back for the value they bring on the field. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire is one of the rare exceptions. Not only was he the most valuable running back in college football in PFF's wins above average stat, but he was the 13th most valuable player regardless of position and the 3rd most valuable non-quarterback." So This is a company and analytics group that is charged with contextualizing and putting up numbers that establish value. So that's not just kind of saying it without backing it up. They've got the numbers. They can explain their reasoning. And none of us need a reason to explain why our next special guest is one of the most beloved players in franchise history, in the franchise's all-time leading tackler, one of the best dudes I've had a chance to interview during my 7 years with the team, Derek Johnson. DJ, man, how are you doing? How's everything going with you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for the introduction, my man.
Came on Field Pass with us, and you talked about how special everything was. We want to get into the draft, but haven't had a chance to talk to you since the team went out there and won a Super Bowl. Just how bittersweet was it for you sitting back and seeing Andy Reid get the Gatorade dumped on him? I had to imagine that it touched you somewhere special.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, being a part of an organization, a great organization like the Kansas City Chiefs for 13 years, man, just to see them raise that trophy, it was awesome, man. It was really awesome. I mean, of course, I'm proud of the guys because they put the blood, sweat, and tears into that game to go all the way to the end, to be the last team standing. But I'm also very, very proud of Andy Reid. I mean, he's been chomping at this for a while, and I tell you what, for in my book, a Hall of Fame coach, this is an exclamation point on his career for sure.
Well, DJ, I have to ask, you mentioned this briefly, but you're one of the best first-round picks in team history way back in 2005. What do you remember about draft weekend and being drafted by the Chiefs?
Man, it was surreal. You know, you grow up, you know, being a football player, typical guy from the inner city, a small town, and go to University of Texas, get all this notoriety, and you have an opportunity to go to the NFL, which is huge. And I actually kind of dropped in the draft because the draft is crazy. You never know what's going to happen. So I always tell players just kind of go with it and just enjoy the process because you never know where you'll go. But I tell you what, it was a blessing in disguise that I went to the Midwest. I didn't know much about the Midwest at all. But I tell you what, I learned a lot in my 13 years, and I made it a second home. So it was a perfect pick for Kansas City and a perfect place for me.
Now, DJ, I want to ask, that was about your draft story. Now I want to ask about last night, if you've had a chance to watch the Chiefs' newest running back, because we asked the fans in the comment section to give us some descriptions of what they see when they watch Clyde Edwards-Helaire. NFL film study says quickness, lateral agility, and patience. And Jeremiah Powell says takes tacklers' souls. And I want to know your thoughts as somebody who was one of the best tacklers in franchise history. When you see a guy that's 5'7", 200 pounds and can move side to side the way that this kid can, just how excited did you get and what's special about Clyde Edwards-Helaire when you watch the film?
Man, you know what? As soon as I saw the pick go in, and usually, I mean, you're at the end of the first round, so you probably won't get the the most popular guy. Everybody else has the most popular, but I tell you what, we got lucky with this one. I tell you that, just because I've seen him play. I've seen him play against my alma mater at Texas, and I tell you what, he did a number on us. And I saw him firsthand. You talk about a guy that's very balanced, a guy that's very a tough runner. I mean, his vision is out the roof for a young guy, and I mean, he was really one of the big reasons LSU, the Heisman Trophy quarterback, other than what Burrow did. I tell you what, he was a reason why that LSU team was as good as they were, and I'm excited about it, because if you go to, I always tell players, young players going to a draft, it's not about going the highest as you can go. It's all about getting to the right team or the right scheme and the right coach. And you talk about Andy Reid, you talk about a coach that's going to put you in the right positions and give you the opportunity to be successful. Perfect spot.
DJ, I'm curious. There's some really great linebackers in this draft. Isaiah Simmons is a local kid. He went high in this draft. But some other good linebackers. When you're looking at young players playing linebacker, what are you looking for?
Nowadays, you got to look for the versatility playing on the passing side of the ball. Most linebackers can play the run. Not that it's easy, but most guys can play the run. That's why you play linebacker, because you can hit and come downhill. But now it's a passing league. It's a passing league, and they spread you out. If you can't cover guys like Travis Kelce, I probably shouldn't say that name. That's most linebackers can't cover that guy. But if you can't cover tight ends or cover running backs in space, it's going to be hard for you to play 3 downs at a time. And as a linebacker like Isaiah Simmons and those guys, man, I tell you what, and Mary from OU, these guys are rangy guys that are kind of like hybrid guys that are aggressive enough to come down and stop the run, but at the same time passive enough to drop back and be effective in the passing game.
Yeah, that's why you see those 220-pound tweener linebacker type guys now. Those body types are different. DJ, we got a question from Barry Garrison, and I know this is one Chiefs fans are going to be excited to hear your answer. So, DJ, since you signed a one-day contract, does that mean you are a Super Bowl champion? And it says, hell yeah, is what it says. So he's got you right there. You're taken care of.
That is exactly right. I am a Super Bowl champion. I will wear that proudly, man. I tell you what, I've had so much joy watching the Chiefs just go all the way, man. I mean, that's who I root for. That's my home team, and that's what I bleed. I bleed red, and a lot of people in Kansas City bleed red. So we all are Super Bowl champions.
I told you and Jamal before the game that you guys were helping establish a culture, regardless of what happened. When we finished that interview on Field Pass, told you guys that. I'm curious also, for a player like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, coming from a school like LSU, and you played so long with the Chiefs, you saw young guys come in, you saw top picks come into that locker room. What would it mean to you as a veteran player for a young player to come into that locker room on a team that had as much success as they did last year, coming from a team that just won a national title, a team that had the target on their backs all year long? Does it mean something to you as a veteran that you can see this young guy as he's had to kind of carry that weight on his shoulders, coming from a big program that had a high expectation, that he was a guy there? Does that mean something to you?
It does mean something. I'll tell you what, whenever you have guys come from big schools and guys that won a lot of games, they're used to the standard and a high standard of play, a high level of play, and just being a consistent player and just playing at a high level. And those teams like LSU and Texas and Ohio State and those big name guys, Clemson, those coaches have had those players for 4 years and held them at a standard. And it's no different from an NFL. When they come to the NFL, they won't be shocked. Not saying they'll automatically have success, but they won't be shocked at the amount of pressure that you have being an NFL player.
For sure. And DJ, you were a first-round pick, as we said earlier, but just how important are rounds 2 and 3 in team building? And Chiefs have had huge success in the second and third round over the years, getting one of your guys, Jamal, in the third round back in 2009, I believe. How important are these middle rounds here?
Very important. I mean, you really tell, because first round, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's everybody knows about who they're going to pick, just about. It's not really a big surprise. But when you get to second, third, fourth, fifth rounds, there's some guys over the years that I played. I'm like, man, you got this guy in the 3rd round. I'm looking like this guy should have been in the 1st round. But you know what? The scouts, that's what they're there for. They do their job. And the coaches, I mean, Andy Reid, I'm sure he's been he's great at what he does, and he's going to pick some really good guys for this next generation.
Now, DJ, before we let you go, I want to ask you one last question because as somebody who follows the Chiefs, you know that this is about the time of the year that everybody starts picking the Chargers to win the AFC West because it happens every year, regardless of the Chiefs going 27-3 the last 5 years. Always to pick the division, but everybody has been talking about the Bucs, and Rob Gronkowski's coming back. So the question for you is, have you been away from the game long enough? How's your body feeling? Can we entice you to maybe give it a go for one more year?
Oh man,
come on! You look like you can still play.
I mean, I'm my kids are out. So I got 4 boys out there playing, jumping in the pool right now. I'm thinking, probably not. They're not gonna let me go back right now. But I tell you what, man. I would love to. I mean, if I would have a little package to come in, on 3rd down and help the guys out, or even coach or whatnot. But I tell you what, man. That's the special thing about Kansas City. Sometimes some people may think it's bad that we don't get as much notoriety, but we're working. We're working our heads down. We're not distracted. You can pick whoever you want to pick, but at the end of the day, we'll be in the fight at the end of the game.
Yeah, you can talk about whatever you want. We'll get that parade, and we'll have a good time doing it. DJ, we appreciate your time. Please stay safe. Hope you and the family are enjoying this time the best that you can, but hopefully we catch up soon, man.
All right. Thanks, BJ. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, DJ.
All right.
All right, Matt. I tried to get Brett Veach and Clark Hunt to admit who we were doing. I'm trying to get DJ back. I'm doing this for the people. I need to know in the comment section if I could have done a better job of trying to recruit DJ back to the field. He left the door open. He said there's a little maybe if they give him a package, you never know.
You never know. What a legend that guy is. Total legend for this franchise, and such a great guy. All the stuff he did in the community over the years. And I love when guys come here that aren't from Kansas City and they're part of the community for a decade like DJ was, and they still call it home. It's so cool to me.
He's such a genuinely good dude. Not even just like a guy that you kind of worked with, carrying around, just like a genuinely good person, regardless of whether he's a football player or not. Just in general, a good dude. And some of the stuff that he's done with the money that he's donated to build the libraries and the books in the schools around here. I have friends that teach at some of those schools, and some of the stuff that they've said of how much those kids love it, even to this day, long after he's done playing. That impact, his legacy still lives on. But right now, speaking of helping out the younger generation, one of the groups that we do that internally that does that is the Kingdom Kids group. And we've got a question. We had one yesterday. We've got another one today, and this one is coming from Braylon.
My favorite part of a Chiefs game is hearing Mitch say, "Touchdown, Kansas City." Who do you think is going to score the most touchdowns this year?
I love the ode to Mitch Holthus. That will never get old. And that cute kid. Love the question, Matt, of who will score the most touchdowns this year. And I'm going to admit this right off the bat that I'm a prisoner of the moment. I'm going to go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm actually going to do this. And my reasoning is that last year it was Tyreek Hill and Damian Williams led the team in the regular season with 7 touchdowns. And you kind of spread it out to everybody. And the fact that he can catch the ball out of the backfield is a running back, and then obviously running the ball, and then catching the ball out of the backfield. I'm going to go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm caught up in the moment.
That's fair. It's possible. You never know. Right. I'm going to go with kind of an obvious candidate, but with a bold prediction. I'm going to say Tyreek Hill with 16 touchdowns. Chiefs franchise single season record. If you think about it, though, it's possible. I mean, 7 touchdowns last year, missed 4 games. It's crazy. Yeah, you never know. He had 12 touchdowns 2 years ago.
I'm here for it.
I mean, you think he can do it. He has the most multi-touchdown receiving games for anybody since 2017. I believe in Tyreek.
I can't wait till the fantasy football articles aggregate your comment right there.
You heard it here first. All
right. We talked about last night. Let's kind of turn the page, look forward a little bit, and go over what should be a really exciting Friday night because of how many good players are still available. You get on social media and you see people saying that this could be one of the deepest, most talented second rounds in recent NFL draft history. There are 15 or 20 players at different points over the last few weeks that have been mocked to the Chiefs with the number 32 pick. So let's bring up the graphic right here of the best available players. still available in this draft. Now, these are the top 10, and obviously the Chiefs don't pick for 31 picks. But in this group of 10, you've got 2 offensive tackles because we saw the run on those guys earlier in the first round, which wasn't a huge surprise. But then you've got 8 defensive players, Matt. And when you look at the Chiefs and all the talk leading up to it is, can they add some depth to different spots along their on their defense? And to me, I want to talk about a couple of spots with some of these best players available and some of the versatile safeties. Let's start there. A guy that you and I spoke a lot about going into this, talked about him on the show last night, and Alabama's Xavier McKinney. He was the number 1 safety on Dane Brugler's board going into this draft, and he's still available because there weren't any safeties that were drafted last night in the first round, which was a little surprising.
Yeah, McKinney is a guy I like a lot. You think about a ball hawk, 10 turnover-worthy plays last year for Alabama's defense, and interchangeable. Like you said, he can get down in the box and can also go and play center field. Second-team All-American last year, Orange Bowl team MVP the year before that. And also playing for Nick Saban, he's running a tight ship on defense there. You're getting a good player there in the secondary out of Alabama. So, yeah, McKinney, great player. I can't believe he's still available.
Yeah, they put a lot of responsibility on his shoulders, and he was described as the alpha dog of that defense, which is saying something when you're on a defense full of alpha dogs at a place like Alabama and the top prospects in the country. Another one of the top safeties everybody's talking about, Minnesota's Antoine Winfield, another player that a lot of people thought would be a first-round pick. Stands at just 5'9", so I think that kind of turns some people off when you look at the draft stuff out there. But a guy, football IQ, toughness, all those things, some comparisons to guys like Earl Thomas, just with his size and his ability to play center field at that size. But the other player to talk about, maybe we'll just do an all LSU draft, but Grant Delpit, another versatile, interchangeable safety, won the Jim Thorpe Award last year as the nation's best defensive back. Although if you ask some people, they'd say he was probably better in 2018 than he was last year. But 37 starts in 3 seasons at LSU is saying something, dude. And this guy, when he comes downhill with some bad intentions, which is my favorite way to describe any safety. That's my favorite skill set to talk about. But he's definitely up there. Grant Delpit would be a great pick.
Yeah, back-to-back All-American nods for him. And war number 7 at LSU, I think Tyrann Mathieu's head would explode if we took Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round and then Grant Delpit in the second or third round and pairing him back there with the Honey Badger. I'd love to see his reaction.
Yeah, let's move on to the next group, and that is just guys in the trenches on the defensive line, whether it's off the edge or defensive tackles. And the guy that we talked about yesterday early in the show, because as of yesterday morning, all the latest mock drafts before the first round, there were some of the big ones from guys like Daniel Jeremiah and Evan Silva at Roto World that had TCU's Ross Blacklock as their pick for the Chiefs at number 32. Based on what's going on social media right now with people talking about what the Bengals may do at the top of the draft, that Blacklock's name has been mentioned, so he's probably not going to be available all the way down at 63, especially with his twitch. Like, just 300-pound guys don't move like he does. And that interior disruption is always going to be the name of the game when it comes to defense and slowing down high-powered offenses. You need defensive tackles who can get on the other side of the line of scrimmage.
Sure, and he's had injuries in his career, but when he's played, he's been crazy productive, just a disruptor there up front for TCU. And like we talked about yesterday, his dad's a Harlem Globetrotters legend. Yeah. So if you have that kind of athleticism in your blood, you're bound to do good things.
Yeah, and again, they're stunning and twisting and doing all kinds of TE stunts, all that stuff all game long. Like, they're stunning almost every single play. So in some ways, it's probably made it tough an evaluation for those guys, but you also get to see the athleticism. The other player who's completely the opposite end of the spectrum, granted their usage was a little different, but Iowa's AJ Epinesa. Maybe a guy that we talked to Anthony Hitchens about here in a little bit. Hitch is going to join us here in just a few minutes. But, AJ Epinesa or his speed, he's just going to run you over. He's just going to line up and bull rush you, go half man and go right at you. He's not going to be a speed guy to get around the edge, but a guy that pretty much across the board has been seen as a safe pick. Somebody who's going to start you for a decade. May never give you 15 sacks, but he'll give you 8 to 10 every year.
Sure. Yeah, big, long power rusher there in Epinesa. A guy, I have a nugget for you. He was the first 5-star high school recruit to go to Iowa since Tony Moeaki, former Chief. Yeah,
you and your nuggets. I love
it.
You just come out of nowhere.
I'm cursed with this knowledge. I have to tell somebody.
I get to be on the other end of all of these.
Yes.
Penn State's Yetur Gross-Matos is just with his size and just what he looks like. Versatile player. He's one of the few guys that did play mainly like an edge player as a defensive end, but he would slide down in passing situations. And that is something that Steve Spagnuolo likes to do. We see it with guys like Tano Passanio has done that. Chris Jones has gone inside and outside. So we have a lot of those versatile guys on the defensive side of the football. And I don't know if Yetur Gross-Matos is going to make it all the way down to number 63, but if he does, that pick would make a lot of sense to me as well.
Yeah, he's an exciting player. He's kind of raw still, I think, is kind of the consensus on him, but led Penn State in tackles for loss and sacks the last 2 years. Big, just long power rusher. If he was there, I'd be really interested in getting him. You can never have enough guys like that.
And I bet our next guest wouldn't mind getting another beast up front to make his life a little easier so he can run around and make plays as we welcome on Chiefs middle linebacker and Super Bowl champion, Anthony Hitchens. Hitch, man, what's going on? How much do you enjoy getting introduced as a Super Bowl champion? I bet that'll never get old.
Oh, no, for sure. It'll never get old. I mean, every time I see any of my friends, well, not lately, but since the Super Bowl was over, then that's the first thing they bring up. Family members, same. And it never gets old. And, I mean, we worked hard for it and we accomplished it. So we deserve it.
So Hitch, I have to ask, you guys did it. You won the whole thing. But now it's been a few months later. How hungry are you to go out and get another one?
Yeah, right now I'm working out in my garage, and that's all I can think about. The feeling, the joy, the ride, the ups and downs. And it was a long season, injuries and a couple losses. It was like so much you can like look back on it and learn from. And as I'm working out, I'm just thinking of like all the good and bad and all the sacrifices that other guys are making, because we can't do much right now. We're all in the house, but everyone's trying to do something. So, yeah, I'm just excited. I just can't wait to get back to work and see all those guys' faces again. I see them in the meetings a little bit, but it's a little different in person. So I'm just excited to get back to work.
Hitch, what's the strangest or most creative thing that you've done to either stay engaged with the game, whether it's a workout or just like studying opponents, playing video games? I know you've got little ones there. Just what have you done to try to stay engaged with the game while we're doing this whole self-quarantine thing?
Yeah, so at first I didn't know it was going to be this extended. So I didn't have no weights, no treadmill in my garage or any of that. I'm blessed enough to have the funds to put it in my garage now. So I'm good. But me running around the backyard, just fence to fence, I wasn't getting tired. So I was just like, it's not going to work. So I caught myself doing a little strange thing. And I'm in Texas right now, so it gets a little hot. So I started sweating and breathing. And I'm just like, but I'm not really tired. So I just caught myself being like, I'm trying, but it's just not working. So, I had to call up Rubes and the staff, and then they got me a connection to get some weights and a treadmill.
It's literally backyard football. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, Hitch, got to ask, what do you think of the Chiefs' first-round pick last night, Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
Oh, yeah. Solid running back from LSU. And, man, our offense is just unbelievable. And I was just – but, I mean, as long as we play, like, on defense, we do our job, and we know they're going to score points, not even more points. So, yeah, we just got to do our job. But the pick was awesome. There's a lot of – we got T5 from LSU, and there's a lot of good guys from there, and they work hard, and they come in. And if you think about it, they got to be top 5 in draft picks and people playing in the league. And I'm just looking forward to meeting him. I'm sure he's ready to grind, and we still got D Wells, so we got a lot of weapons. So it should be a fun mini camp if we get to it. Camp in the season to go be able to compete against all these great running backs and receivers and tight ends, and obviously the quarterback.
Hey, Hitch, I'm not going to lie. I'll be rooting for you, but I'm interested for training camp. Those one-on-ones, those little angle routes and shoot routes. I want to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire going up against some of the NFL linebackers, because that's what he's known for. And, Andy Reid's going to figure out ways to get him out in space. But how much do you follow the draft, like the players that are there? I'm sure you watch the Iowa guys. We were talking about A.J. Epinesa a little bit earlier as some of the top players who are still available. How much do you get into the draft as far as prospects who are available, who may be teammates, or you just kind of wait until the draft and then see who's joined? Like, how do you kind of go through that?
I haven't really, like, the first year I watched it, obviously, when I was a rookie or coming into the league. But after that, I had a couple guys that were still in Iowa that was good friends of mine. Then I watched that year. But ever since then, I haven't really been watching it. This is probably like the first year, because, I can't really do anything else. So it's kind of like the first year I kind of like watched, the whole first round. And I'm going to watch it again tonight. So, yeah, I watch it. It's a blessing. When I got drafted, I know it's the best feeling, ever, besides winning the Super Bowl. But it's a blessing come true, and like all the hard work you do and all that stuff, and you get a phone call. So yeah, this is the first year, and I'm just like taking it all in. Like, hey, it's been 7 years now going on, so it's a lot done changed since then, but it's definitely a blessing.
was going to ask you about that. What was your draft day experience like when the Cowboys picked you up a few years ago?
Yeah, so my agent was telling me I can go anywhere from the 3rd to the 7th. So the first day I really wasn't watching much. The second day, two of my good friends got drafted. I got drafted in the 4th, so it was the last day, but it was early in the 4th, so it was like a noon on a Saturday. And I was just with my family, just sitting on the couch, and my phone buzzed. And once my phone buzzed, I just got like these, I don't even know how to explain it. My body just started shaking, and then there it was, Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones calling me. But it was a blessing. I went to my room. I kept to myself for about 30 minutes, broke down and cried a little bit. Just thought about everything I've been through. Just being like a 2-star recruit and going to Iowa and not starting. Someone got hurt, then I eventually started and didn't start till my junior year. So it was a lot, emotions. I'm sure a lot of kids are doing that now. So it's a good experience. I'll never forget it. I had a cake. I don't even like cake, but I wanted a cake with a Cowboys on it. So,
that's great.
But it was a great experience, though.
Hitch, I know the answer to this question because we spent enough time around each other. But for fans who are curious how you maintain that edge as a player after you won a Super Bowl, to want to feel like you got to earn it and go back and do it again. Just how would you describe the mindset of this team? I know you guys are talking kind of virtually right now, but how do you let fans know that don't worry, we're not going to be complacent, that we know what it took to get the first one. We're going to run it back and try to get another one.
Yeah. First off, Coach Reed is not going to let us be complacent, even if you want to be. So that's out the window. And we are hungry. We are like in our prime for the most part. Got a pretty balanced team, and we're playing good ball. And we weren't satisfied. Like there was a lot of reporters in the locker room, like, you guys going to the next round. You guys don't seem happy. I'm like, that's not our goal, And our goal is the same thing every year. And if you don't get to that goal, then you came up short. So there's only one goal, and that's the goal, and that's the mindset. And I'm sure from day one, we got to start all over, put our shoes on and tie them up and, get back to work. And we have a lot of guys with the same mindset. So the chances are very high for us.
Hey, Hitch, we had Derek Johnson on, a Chiefs legend, a little bit earlier, and I asked him the same question. When you're watching the draft and you're seeing some of these linebackers being taken, what does a linebacker have to excel at, like a young linebacker in the league here today?
I think first and foremost for a linebacker is to get the playbook down. You can't be out there just playing for yourself. You got to get everyone lined up, and that's the hardest part. So I think after that, it's a mindset. All linebackers have one mindset when you're on the field. So what I did when I came in, I had a good mentor, Sean Lee. He just told me, study the playbook, and you already have the mindset because they would have drafted you. But you have the mindset, study the playbook. The more you know, the faster you can play. So just having that mindset and studying the playbook, you can play fast and get guys lined up, and your team becomes more confident in you. You can't have guys like, oh, my middle linebacker or my linebacker don't know what he's doing. That's not for a team. So I just think you have a mindset and study the playbook hard, and you can go a long way in this league.
Hitch, one of my favorite things to do last year when I'd rewatch the games wasn't watching the highlights. It'd be watching how you would get everybody lined up before a play, and then they'd go make a play, and then that player would get credit. I'm like, somebody give Hitch credit. I know it's not exciting on a highlight to spotlight you walking up and scooting a defensive tackle over to the other gap, but always enjoyed it. Hitch, we appreciate your time. Before we let you go, I have one last question. This is coming from the chat room, and one of our biggest fans, Cammy Darnell, asked if you had to be in the draft this year and you were doing it from home, how would you have done it? What would have been your set? Would you go Henry Ruggs and be wearing a robe, or what would you have done?
I'm more laid back, so I probably would have just been family. I don't know. Probably just I don't know. Probably just similar. Like I would have a robe on, but I have like maybe a suit or something like that. Be with my family and be able to capture. And it depends what round too. If it was first round, I'd probably have a full suit on with my family and catered food, all that. But if it was like one of the later rounds, I'd probably just been around my family, and just I wish I could have caught all my moments of my draft. And, I didn't know when it was going to happen, so I didn't want to have a camera on for 3 days, So, but you catch those moments and those first reactions of getting drafted is just different than, just explaining it or the next day or something like that, or having a party the next day or something like that. So, yeah. I probably definitely have a camera on to catch that first reaction of everybody and your name go across the screen.
Yeah, it's been different with the virtual, but it's been cool to see the different. And you guys get back in the building, we can catch up, man.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait, man.
All right.
Thanks,
Chiefs linebacker Anthony Hitchens. Matt, that reminded me when I asked him about the robe that I reached out to. I'm going to reach out. I haven't yet. I was going to reach out to Tommy Bahama and see if they have robes that we can all wear maybe tomorrow. It's like a Tommy Bahama Chiefs robe. I think I got to rock that. Just like the dude, like the gifts on Monday.
There you
That's
go.
exactly what we should do.
Like the progression, we go from like nice Chiefs polo to Tommy Bahama to straight robe on the last day. I'm not opposed.
Yes. Perfect. All right, let's talk, Matt. Let's talk a little more draft right now. And we've got this graphic. So when you look at the first round and kind of how it all played out and what we thought, there weren't a lot of surprises, maybe a couple of positions and a couple of players here and there, but it kind of played out the way that a lot of the experts had thought. But here's a breakdown on all the different positions that were selected in the first round and ones that are notable for the Chiefs as we look towards the couple of picks they have today. 6 wide receivers going in the first round, which is about what people had expected. Same with offensive line, 7 of those guys, 6 of them being tackles, with the one interior guy being Cesar Ruiz from Michigan, the center there. A couple of edge players, 4 linebackers, and then 6 cornerbacks, which seems like a lot, but it's really not when you paid attention to the draft and just the depth of that position. And when I spoke with Brett Veach last week, one of the things that he talked about were the depth at the different positions. He mentioned cornerback, he mentioned offensive line, and a couple others. So for me, it was, if he's mentioning the depth at all of these places, that means we're probably not going to select those positions in the first round. Like, we could have used deductive reasoning and figured out that a running back was very much in play because he didn't talk about running back depth. So that's a huge miss on our part. Could have been the entire show.
You're right. I think you're right about that, though, where there are 32 NFL teams, but at some of these positions like cornerback and wide receiver, if you look at all the mock drafts leading up to the draft, there's been like 100 first-round picks. So you're going to find guys in the second and third round that were mocked in the first round. So good value of those guys, good players who probably could have been first-round picks and get them later on in the draft. So, and like I asked DJ earlier, there's guys, this is where you build your team. You know, you find value here. You find diamonds in the rough, guys that maybe other teams passed on for whatever reason. You can find them here and make a big difference for your team.
Yeah, again, we appreciate everybody for following along. Let us know in the comments section, give us your 3 favorite players who are available. Let's be honest, if you're watching this live stream right now, you are into the draft. So you've been paying attention to mock drafts. You've probably doing the Pro Football Focus one that I've done that added trades this year, which was life-changing. It definitely cut back on my sleep on what I would have got this week had they not added the trade, because it just made the mock drafts take that much longer. But let us know. Give us 3 players in the comment section who you think legitimately could be available in about 30 picks when the Chiefs are available at the bottom of the round, and 6 players that kind of briefly want to touch on right now at a position that a lot of people thought the Chiefs would attack with the number 32 pick. Maybe they attack it with the number 63 pick, and that is the cornerback position. And let's start with one guy coming from the University of Alabama and Trevon Diggs, 6'1", 205 pounds. And where's the number 7? Matt, I'll let you share that nugget, but where's number 7 thanks to a current Kansas City Chief?
Yeah, Tyrann Mathieu. Kind of a trend here. Everyone wants to wear number 7 because of Tyrann Mathieu. Pretty high praise there, too. You go to Bama, and you still want to wear Tyrann Mathieu's number. It's pretty cool. I love that kid, too, because his freshman year at Bama, he's a two-way player. Played wide receiver and DB. I don't know how much this plays a role, but you got to think it helps a little bit, where if you're a DB, you've played receiver. So you know kind of what a receiver's thinking. So it's got to help you a little bit. And Stephon Diggs, the Buffalo Bills wide receiver, it's his little brother. So, again, athleticism runs in that family.
Yeah, you talk about ball skills. I mean, it's just the ability to track the ball. You're used to catching it at wide receiver. Most of these guys that are in the NFL, like, they're such good athletes that when they were in high school, they were playing both ways. So these DBs, these corners, will most likely be playing running back, quarterback, just get the ball in their hands, or receiver or something. But yeah, Trevon Diggs is going to go at some point, it seems like, in the second or third round. He's going to go today at some point. Another one, Jalen Johnson from Utah, popular pick. A lot of people thought the Chiefs may pick him with the number 32 pick. Christian Fulton out of LSU, we spent a lot of time talking with him. He's probably going to go in the next 15 picks or so as one of the top cornerbacks who's still available. And then one of the guys that we want to talk about is Virginia's Bryce Hall. Not only because of the familiarity that he has in playing with Juan Thornhill over the last few years. You have those 2 ball hawks. Juan Thornhill had 13 interceptions in his career, and Bryce Hall is another guy who's got amazing ball skills. 37 forced incompletions, third most in college football in his career, and had a 92.4 coverage grade, which was 5th best among corners in a deep cornerback class. It's impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And 2 years ago in 2018, led FBS with 24 passes defense. That's incredible. Guys are challenging you, and you are making them pay over and over again. He had that ankle injury this past year that kind of derailed his season. He's a guy that might have been a first-round pick if he didn't have that injury. So if his medicals check out, if you feel good about him, he could be a steal.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who were surprised that he went back to school last year, because he was one of the guys in the early draft portion before the Senior Bowl and before all that, when they were talking about, who's going to declare, how they're going to hire an agent, like all that kind of stuff, that Bryce Hall was one of those players that a lot of people thought would be like, a first 2-day pick. He was going to be picked in the first couple of rounds. Went back to school, and it looks like he's going to go to sometime today. And then the third guy, Cam Dantzler, is a really interesting evaluation. I'm not going to pretend to be an evaluator, but I read all the stuff that the experts and people that I trust
you play one on TV.
Yeah, exactly. What they had to say about him as a player. But the numbers that jump out: didn't allow more than 77 yards in any single game. And with his size and length, it doesn't take long when you watch the highlights and you see the film for just the physical traits, the athleticism and the length, which are the two most important things at the cornerback position, that he's got both those, and he's got the willingness to come up and run support, which I know we beat it like a dead horse, but like, you've got to be able to tackle. You've got to have that willingness to play cornerback for Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah, and funny story about Dantzler. He, like you said earlier, these guys are so good in high school that they play like all these different positions. Well, he was his high school quarterback, and he was recruited by Mississippi State to play corner, but he was so much better than everyone else. He had to play quarterback, so he played hardly any corner when he was in high school before he went to Mississippi State. Obviously a quick learner, really productive player there at Mississippi State. He's a good player. I like him a lot.
Yeah, 14 passes defense and 4 interceptions in the last 2 years at Mississippi State. Again, that's the cornerback position, and just one of those deep spots that it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out when you get to 63. It could end up being, cornerback. It could be anywhere on the defensive side. Maybe it's linebacker. Maybe it's one of these versatile safeties that we talked about earlier in the show. Maybe one of them falls down to the number 63 pick, but it's going to be definitely one of those. If you see guys that you thought would be there at 32 start coming off the board, there's going to be a lot of anxiety around picks at 55 to 60 when there's guys you like. Are they going to survive? And maybe does Brett Veach try to hop up and grab one of those guys who keeps falling, who you thought might be available at the end of the first round?
Yeah, those runs on certain positions are always stressful, right? If you target a few guys you want, you're like, oh, I might be able to get them, and all of a sudden they start going off. Should be fun to watch.
All right, now let's welcome on our next special guest. That is one of the best players in Major League Baseball in the Kansas City Royals, all-star Wit Merrifield. Wit, we appreciate your time. Every interview we do, we just kind of started off saying, like, where are you right now, and what are you doing to keep yourself entertained? I know you'd be rather playing baseball than anything else, but what are you doing to keep yourself entertained, man?
No doubt I'd rather be playing right now, but it is what it is. But fortunately, my golf course is open. So I'm getting to work on my golf game a little bit. And I'm in North Carolina, and we've had awesome weather. I got to say, ever since the quarantine started, it's been like 70 and sunny like 90% of the days. So we've been really fortunate with that. So I've been able to go outside and do what I call prison workouts, just do what I can to stay in shape. Gyms are closed, obviously. I usually go over to Wake Forest and do my baseball stuff there in the cages and everything, but they're closed down as well. So it's back to the high school grind where I got a little pop-up net and just wailing off a tee and playing catch my little brother. So that's kind of where we are right now.
So with the NFL draft and MLB draft are very different, but you were a 9th-round pick back in 2010. Just tell us about your draft day experience. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it's really different. In a sense, the baseball draft goes during the season. Well, I guess technically into the postseason. So we had just, I believe, won our regional, and we're practicing for the super regional. I've been hearing from the scouts was I'd be anywhere from a 3rd to a 5th round guy, maybe 6th round if worst case scenario. So our coach, Coach Tanner, actually held up practice for me because the 5th round was going to be about when practice started, and my name hadn't been called yet, so we held it up. and I was in his office. It wasn't on TV, like it is now with the NFL. It was on the computer. I was following along the computer, name by name. And 5th round came, nothing. 6th round came, nothing. 7th round came, nothing. And so I was getting a little antsy and a little concerned. And then 9th round came, and the Orioles called. My dad was acting as my agent at the time because I didn't really think I needed an agent because I wasn't going to sign for a bunch of money. So the Orioles called my dad and said, hey, we'll give Wit, I believe it was like $125,000 and pay for his senior year of school if he signs. Is he willing to do that? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And so the Orioles pick came, and I don't know, something happened. I'm not sure what happened, but they passed on me. And my coach said in censored terms, screw it, let's forget it. Let's just go practice. So I left, and the Royals were 4 picks after. And so I was walking to the field, and one of our clubhouse managers came running down the hallway. I said, hey, the Royals just picked you. And so it was kind of a mix of emotions. I was pretty not, I don't want to say upset because that's kind of a bad way to put it, but my expectations were a lot higher than what happened. So I was like, okay, well, this is cool. I got picked, and I was honestly set on going back to school, going back for my senior year, because in baseball, you don't have to make a decision until later on. So I was like, all right, well, I fell later than I wanted to. I'll go back to South Carolina, which is an awesome school, awesome baseball program. I'll get my degree. I'll break a bunch of records, and it'll be awesome senior year. We ended up winning the College World Series, and I got the walk-off hit to win it.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, I can't really go out any better than this.
I was going to say,
I'm really glad I did.
I was going to say, I think you ended it about as good as anybody can end a college baseball career. And it's funny you mentioned Ray Tanner, the guy I played for all through high school, played for him when he was at North Carolina State. But I want to see the cell phone video. I need you to, like Rocky in Russia, like just figuring out different ways to work out. That's been one of my favorite things I've seen from players. But Whit, before we let you go, I want to ask you one final question. And it's, I think, any athlete that is in your position, a guy that kind of grind, like you said, knew you were going to be a first-round pick, went in the 9th round. I know there's 50 in baseball, but you were in the minors for a long time, worked your way up to becoming an all-star in everything that you've done throughout your career. But you're at the point now where you at one point were a young player that went into a locker room, whether it was in the minors or when you got called up, that you were kind of leaning on some veteran players, some older guys to kind of show you the ropes. How do you remember going through that process, and who were some of those guys that you kind of leaned on as we're in a situation now where a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who got picked last night, is going to go into a running back room with a guy like Damian Williams, who arguably could have been the MVP of the Super Bowl. So just how kind of do you work through that dynamic, and how important is that for a professional athlete to kind of help each other out when you become the mentor/mentee?
It's huge. And Kansas City has done an incredible job of generating a culture. We actually were talking about this a couple of days ago in a Zoom call, but it's so important to make these young guys feel as they're a part, they're equals on the team from the get-go. And the old school kind of way, it wasn't really like that. And it took us, this minute you step in our clubhouse, in our locker room, you're on our team, you're trying to help us win games. You're an equal. No matter if you've got a day in the show or if you got 15 years. And that was huge for me coming up, because I wasn't a top prospect. I knew when I got up I was going to have a small window to prove myself. And guys like, Eric Hosmer, Moustakis, Alex Gordon, and one guy that really, really was awesome to me, and I'll never forget it, was Gerard Dyson. Gerard Dyson, when I got in, he was my guy. Like, I would go to him with any questions I had. Yeah. Dice was the man. He was incredible to me, and I'm forever thankful for those guys, because they really made me feel comfortable and let me just go out and play my game. And had I not been able to do that, I don't think I would have got off to the start I would have. And being the type of prospect that I was, that probably would have been my only shot. So I'm forever grateful for those guys, and we've tried to instill that culture here in Kansas City.
Yeah, that championship culture you're describing is what makes, groups special. It makes talented teams do something special. We appreciate your time. Hopefully you stay safe, and hopefully we can see you out there playing baseball, doing what you were born to do real soon, man. We appreciate your time.
No doubt, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Wit.
That is the Kansas City Royals, Wit Merrifield. Matt, I think that it's a perfect segue from what Wit was talking about right there, where welcome you into a locker room, a young guy, because that is the exact culture that he's stepping into. I'm talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire right now, stepping into a locker room where he's got a familiar face and somebody that he knows in not only Tyrann Mathieu, and they're crossing paths with him, but also Darrell Williams. A guy that he played with back in 2017 at LSU. And speaking of Tyrann Mathieu, we will have Tyrann Mathieu in just a few minutes. I know people are excited about it as we wind down this show before we get the second round started here in about 10 or 15 minutes. But the whole Darrell Williams, I thought it was cool last night that Clyde Edwards-Helaire say the first text message he got was from Darrell Williams. That was awesome.
Yeah, really cool. You think about that locker room. First of all, LSU is a running back factory. It's ridiculous. Are they better at running backs or DBs? I can't decide. But you think about that locker room back in 2017. Darrell Williams was a star, had over 1,000 yards from scrimmage, and Clyde was a new guy. I mean, he was the freshman. He didn't play that much at all. It's really cool to see the relationships that are built there. Darrell took Clyde under his wing and of course became an undrafted free agent and signed by the Chiefs and had a pretty good career so far. And now they're reunited here in Kansas City. But that bond was never broken. I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I thought the other cool thing that Wit Merrifield mentioned there, and talking about, the most important thing is for the player to feel wanted, like that they wanted to be there. Well, for Clyde Edwards-Helaire last night, how can you not feel wanted when that story comes out that Patrick Mahomes wanted you on the team and sent a text message that just said Clyde? That's got to make you feel pretty good and pretty wanted. And just seeing how giddy Andy Reid was, it had to make you feel pretty good. Also, along those same lines, it seemed like when they – and I know there's more content that's come out. We had a chance to talk with Dylan McCullough, the Chiefs running backs coach, one of our producers, Luke Bennett, did. And the relationship that Dylan McCullough seemed to already have with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and that they were on that FaceTime call. And if they didn't know each other and they weren't familiar, that awkwardness would kind of show. And it didn't show at all. It seemed like they kind of knew each other. And that was cool with Dylan McCullough, who I remember talking to about Darrell Williams a few years ago, and it was the same deal. Like, they had a really good relationship, and that's why Darrell Williams chose to come to the Chiefs as an undrafted free agent, kind of being in that spot. But I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire has to worry about feeling the love, whether it's from Tyrann Mathieu, Darrell Williams, or pretty much all of Chiefs Kingdom now that's had a chance to see his highlights and picture what Andy Reid's going to do with him in this offense.
Yeah. Looking forward to asking Tyrann about him pretty soon here. But you're right. Just the leadership in this locker room, guys like Patrick Mahomes, guys like Tyrann Mathieu, it just makes in the world a kid or want to bring along a guy that could trying to replace them one day. But it's what makes a good team, and we're lucky to have a lot of guys like that here in Kansas City.
Yeah, before we get Tyrann on, just another reminder that this live stream show is brought to you by Park University. In just a few weeks, our world has obviously changed. Now, change the way you learn with online classes at Park University. Park has been teaching online for 25 years. Apply now for summer term beginning June 8th. Park University, the official higher education partner of the Kansas City Chiefs.
That was almost flawless.
That time. That was better than the first one, wasn't it?
You nailed it.
So anyway,
well, I was going to say, BJ, speaking of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Tyrann Mathieu is a legend in Baton Rouge and Louisiana. And we asked him after he got drafted what it was going to be like playing with Tyrann Mathieu here in Kansas City. Here's what he said.
When you say the Honey Badger, I just think the greatest football player to come out of Louisiana. And immediately, I just think how, the competition and how intense everything would be, knowing that he's going to expect enough from me, knowing that I came from LSU and knowing that this is a program and a franchise that just won a Super Bowl. So this is not coming in and expecting low expectations. It's time to go in and work immediately. So I'm more than happy. I like working, and they drafted a great guy.
All right, and we are joined right now by somebody who doesn't need much of an introduction in Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann, you were watching last night. They take an LSU Tiger at number 32 overall and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. What was your thought process? How well do you know Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and how excited were you?
Well, I've always heard that he's a good kid. And most kids that come through LSU, that come through Baton Rouge, they're good kids. That's kind of part of the recruitment process. And so it's kind of good to see him, have some success. And, he's a homegrown kid as well. So to see him kind of grow up in Baton Rouge and take LSU to the national championship, pretty special year for him.
So Tyrann, when we mention your name to guys like Clyde, their faces just light up. So what's it like to be an icon in Louisiana and for people to look up to you like this?
I mean, it's cool. I think obviously nobody ever sets out to be one of those guys. I think it just happened naturally. But I think he's setting a great, standard for himself. Obviously guys like Leonard Fournette and different running backs that have been coming through LSU. So like I said, it's good to see him have some success and not only have success, but come to a good program.
We just saw him that bit right there, and we heard him talk about it last night, that coming from a program that had that kind of success with those expectations, LSU had a target on their back all season long, and he was one of those key guys, obviously, with all the weapons they had on the offensive side of the football, with that offensive line that won the Joe Moore Award, the nation's top offensive line, to Joe Burrow and Jefferson and Jamar Chase, whose name's going to be called really early next season. But for you, what's it mean to you when you talk about legacy and just leadership and all that? You flip it on, and he immediately starts talking about he knows what kind of mindset that he's got to come in when he shows up in Kansas City because of the expectations, because guys coming through LSU were just different. I mean, that's what we just heard him talking about. What does it mean to you that you already have that kind of just ambiance, like that vibe about you, that players, when they know they be around you, that they got to be ready to work?
Well, I've always just, try to be myself first and foremost. And I think if you're able to do that, people are able to accept you as you are. And I think naturally, I try my best to work as hard as I can and, get as much information from coaches as I can. And, I just try to apply everything I can to, the game of football. I joke around with guys a lot. I use my life for example. Take different scenarios and different things in my life, and, I apply it to football, whether it be encouraging things or motivating things. Even when I'm going through tough times, I think football has really taught me a lot.
Tyrann, I have to ask, we're about 2 months now removed from the Super Bowl, and obviously there's been bigger life things going on with the crisis going on in the world. But just how often do you look back and reflect on the Super Bowl and that you're a Super Bowl champion now?
I reflect on it pretty often. Not everybody has that title, and I think as a football player, especially as a guy, who has came so close, so many times, even back at LSU and, even, earlier in my Cardinals days, making it all the way to the championship game. So I think winning the Super Bowl, obviously you don't take it for granted. I think about my teammates a lot, because, we won't have the same group, this coming year. So a lot of guys are moving on and, doing great things with themselves. And so I think about those guys the most, and, really the standard that we tried to build.
I think anybody who spent time around you knows that you don't have to worry about keeping you motivated or being complacent and coming off this. It takes about 30 seconds to realize that's not the case. But I want to ask, because we dropped this nugget last night that in talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, that he had 700-yard rushing games last season. 4 of those came against top 10 teams. They came against Florida, Auburn, Alabama, and Clemson, which is saying something to go up against that group. Now, I know that isn't necessarily going to wow a bunch of alphas in your guys' locker room to know what he did in college. But for a player with his pedigree, how can a player like Clyde Edwards-Helaire step into that locker room as a rookie and gain respect? Not that it's immediate and is given, it has to be earned. But for you, what do you need to see, and just what does that entire locker room need to see from a guy who could contribute right away? And how does he acclimate himself in that way with the locker room?
Yeah, I think, for one is to, like I mentioned earlier, just to be himself, and I think his production speaks for itself. I think he's ready to play on this level. If you look at the competition, he played against, and he's not one of those guys that, uses one particular thing to win, right? Like he uses the different things to kind of get open and, get leverages on certain guys. And as a defensive player, that's the kind of things I pick up, watching the offensive players. And so I can tell that he's pretty smart, that he's not just running routes and, running on air. He actually knows what he's doing. He's trying to get open. And I think we have guys like that, I think they make everybody around you better. I think he's going to make Pat Mahomes better. He's going to make the offensive line better. He's going to take a lot of stress off Tyreek and Kelsey. And so as their teammates, this will be fun. This will be fun.
So, Ty, I just have to ask you, we have a comment section going right now with fans that are watching this, and there's numerous fans.
What's up?
Yeah. One of them, Andrea Schaefer, she says that you're one of the best acquisitions the Chiefs have ever made. You've only been here a year, but are you aware how beloved you are in Chiefs Kingdom already?
I take great pride in it, man. I think outside of, trying to, play as hard as I can, you try to show people who you are, and I think that's what I've tried to do since I've got here. I really try to get in the community. I remember when I first got here, I was going to the Hy-Vee Arena, playing with the young guys in the community. And so I just try my best to embrace the people around me. And I think that's the best way really for people to embrace you.
We've said this to people that aren't necessarily around you guys every day or in that locker room, man, but it says something about you as an superstar player who was named on the NFL's all-decade team, one of the best players in the league, that you make yourself available in the locker room every single day. And I know it seems like it would be obvious to a lot of people who don't necessarily know that environment, but that's not always the case. And it definitely means something that you make yourself available to the media. You treat everybody with respect, whether there's a mic or a camera in your face or not. And that goes a long way towards your legacy beyond what you guys do, beyond what you do on the field. Another question we've got from the chat room, and I know the answer to this. Governor McLovin. I don't think that's his real name, but I love it. How excited are you to get Thornhill back and healthy?
I'm excited. I think if anybody is really that really watched our defense, they saw the way we really progressed throughout the year, and I think Juan was a big part of that. I think his attitude, the mindset he brought, really as a rookie, I think it was outstanding. But a lot of rookies aren't like that. I thought the kid was really focused on his job. He showed up to practice every day, which is not always the case. So for him to be a high draft pick like that and to, really gain the respect of guys like Frank Clark, which is pretty hard to do, by the way. But if guys like Frank Clark could love you and think about you and ask about you, I think you're doing something good. And I think he brings a great attitude to our locker room.
Let's not sugarcoat this. There was no chance you were going to let him show up and not get to work every day. This is a guy who watched your highlights going back to high school. Like, he was seen as his favorite player ever. I remember talking about that when he was cheesing about playing with you. And I remember asking him, I was like, have you told Tyrann, you watched his film in high school? He's like, no, man, that's embarrassing. He's going to find out eventually.
Right.
We appreciate your time, man. One last question. One last question before you go. We've got the second and third rounds tonight. I know there's still some LSU guys on that board, so I know you're gonna state the cases for them, particularly number 7. That guy back there who makes some plays. But what do you want to see from the Chiefs? If they add defense, not necessarily names unless you want to go there, but what are you looking forward to from the Chiefs tonight, and how much are you going to be paying attention to what they do?
Yeah, I think being a leader on the team, trying to look at things from a bigger picture standpoint. Obviously, I think if you can get a guy on the back end that can really affect, third down, 2 minutes, 4 minute situations, can really affect the turnover game. I think that's always a plus for your defense. Or anytime you can get a big guy in the middle, right, that can really control the line of scrimmage and, can make centers, think twice about snapping the ball. Anytime you get a guy like that, I think it always goes well for your team. But I think most importantly, you just want a guy that you can count on, right? Just pick anybody out there that you can count on, that that's going to play for the other 10 guys around them. And I think it'll be easy for us to, accept whoever they pick.
All right, Tyrann, we appreciate your time. That is Tyrann Mathieu, All-Pro, a member of the All-Decade team, the Honey Badger, Super Bowl champion, team captain, all the stuff. Landlord,
keep going.
First of his name, landlord of Kansas City, just the owner of everything, stealer of souls.
Appreciate it, fellas.
All right, Tyrann, we appreciate it, man. Let's
appreciate it, fellas. Anytime. Right. Yep.
Stealer of souls. I don't know where that came from. That's the coffee talk. And
but best, isn't he?
I love that guy. I love that. It's so great having him around. Regardless of like all the playmaking stuff, he's just an awesome dude to have around. There was no doubt that he was going to be excited to come on this. You really didn't have to give it much thought.
Yeah. I mean, how often do you get superstar players that are also just amazing people? The Chiefs are lucky to have a bunch of those, actually. It doesn't happen often. People not in the sports world don't realize it. That doesn't always happen, but the Chiefs locker room is full of those guys, and Tyrann's one of them for sure.
Yeah, I like that he mentioned it's not easy to get Frank Clark's respect. And Tyrann's going to love everybody. Frank's one of those guys, like, when he gives you a compliment, like, you know you earned it. Like, it's not going to sugarcoat anything. I've told the story like 1,000 times, I think, on In the Trenches, but my favorite Frank Clark / Tyrann Mathieu leadership moment was back at the first day of OTAs last year. When I was curious how their leadership would kind of show itself like early in OTAs, like were they going to dip their toe in the water, or were they just going to like go in and start yelling and screaming and all that kind of stuff? And they started yelling, like Frank was yelling and screaming at Patrick Mahomes in the offense, screaming, "This ain't last year. This is different." About the Chiefs defense. And then you saw what they did in the season. They closed it out. It's my favorite story when people are asking, when did you see that there was like a culture change on that side of the ball? It was the first time we saw Tyrann Mathieu and Frank Clark and that defense out on the field, talking trash to what at that time, a quarterback that put together a season that only one other guy in NFL history had ever done.
Yeah. And it turned into a Super Bowl championship. Great end to that story, huh?
All right. As we wrap up this show, Matt, what are you excited for tonight? Chiefs have 2 picks at 63 and then at 96 at the end of the third round. What are you excited about?
Well, I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but this is where teams are built. And the first round gets all the pub and all the accolades, and it's really exciting. But the second and third round, you can find guys that could have been first-round picks. They end up being stars for your team. Mecole Hardman, Juan Thornhill last year. Without those guys, I don't know if the Chiefs won the Super Bowl or if they won as many games as they did. So tonight could be a big night for the Chiefs. You don't know what direction they're going to go. They don't need to fill any huge needs. They can kind of take whatever player they want at that spot. Excited to see what guys they can get here tonight.
I like the idea that he said about getting another guy in the back end of that defense to cause turnovers, because the one thing that we know, regardless of what position it is on the defense, that the offense is going to put up points. So the defense is going to be tasked with keeping teams from trying to play catch up or trying to keep up with you. So you get guys who can make plays, guys who can take the ball away and give extra possessions to your offense. And Grant Delpit, the LSU guy, is one of those guys. Other players available. Lloyd Cushenberry, guy that we talked about with Will Shields last night, the LSU center, again, one of the best centers in all of college football last year, really helped lead that offensive line as far as guys who are available and have the LSU connection. But guys on the back end who can take the football away, or guys up front who can get after the quarterback. We talked about Ross Blacklock. We talked about Neville Gallimore. You got some guys up front who can get after the quarterback, Eater Gross-Matos, Darrell Taylor, as far as those edge rushers. Get some guys who can help create some negative plays.
Absolutely. And either way, no matter what direction the Chiefs go, the Chiefs will be better after tonight. I can guarantee you that.
Yes, and don't forget, we have got another show coming up later tonight. We will go live again on this live stream with myself and Mitch Holtis around pick number 87, trying to time it out to be about 20 or 30 minutes before the Chiefs pick. But Mitch and I will set you up and talk about what we've seen so far from the draft, get questions and answer you guys questions in the chat room with whatever you've got. Melissa Etheridge is going to join us and talk about what she's seen. And I don't know if there's anybody, celebrity, singer or not, who is as big a Chiefs fan as Melissa Etheridge. She is all over this pick. She's breaking down Clyde Edwards-Helaire. She is excited to come on the show. And then Brett Veach will join us again after the third round has concluded, before he speaks with the rest of the media to break down the decisions that they make today. Again, last night was fun. Today, again, these are 2 huge, could be foundational pieces to help. We use the D word again, talking about dynasty. If the Chiefs are going to win, if the Chiefs end up winning multiple Super Bowls and put together this stretch of success that we've never seen in franchise history, the 2 picks or 3 picks, however many we end up making today, are going to be huge pieces of getting that done.
Absolutely. Can't wait. I think the draft's almost underway. Let's go watch.
All right. Let's do it, everybody. We will see you around pick number 87. We appreciate everybody for watching.